الجديدة. If you remember, chapter 1 is entitled What is Linguistics? So the main goal of chapter 1 is to define linguistics, not language, but linguistics. We defined linguistics as the scientific or the systematic study of language. The systematic study of language. And it's scientific or systematic for a reason. Because first, the linguist starts his work with an observation, and then he does some kind of collection of data, and then doing experiments, and then reaching out some conclusions and making theories or generalizations. So the linguist, in other words, follows a systematic process, a process that involves some kind of scientific steps, rules, and scientific steps, steps that require some kind of work, objective work, scientific observation, collection of data, analysis, doing experiments, and so on. بس دقيقة. Okay. So linguistics is interested in what? Linguistics is interested in many aspects of life. Linguistics is interested in studying the relationship between language and society, how the society affects language in sociolinguistics, and also the sociology of language, how language affects the society. Linguistics is also interested in the relationship between language and mind, and language acquisition, how children acquire the language. It's also interested in studying how languages change, what similarities are found between languages, what are the differences between languages, and also the differences between human language and animal communication. Linguistics is interested in all of these things, in the kinds of variation, differences found between languages and social classes, how the brain processes languages and acquires languages, and also the differences between language and animal communication. Linguistics is also interested in the application of linguistic theories on the field of language teaching, and is also interested in applying linguistic theories on literary works, novels, poetry, short story, etc. Because linguistics is a science, so it's interdisciplinary, which means that it interferes and integrates with all other sciences, with so many sciences, with biology, with mathematics, with physics, with musicology, with everything. You know, that's how sciences work. They work together hand in hand. We also say that the linguist doesn't need to be a native speaker of the language. If I ask you, what do we call the person who works in linguistics? Don't tell me the word linguist is unsatisfactory because it causes confusion, since it also refers to someone who speaks a large number of languages. Linguistics in the sense of, seriously? I'm not asking you to be a machine or a robot. I know everything is written in the PDF file and in the video. I'm just asking you a simple question to check for understanding, which is, who is the linguist? You just tell me the linguist is the person who studies linguistics. Should the linguist be a native speaker of the language? Don't read everything. Just say, no, he doesn't need to be a linguist. He doesn't need to be a native speaker, because he's a consumer, not a producer. The linguist, I can be a linguist of English, but I'm not a native speaker of English. I can be a linguist of Japanese, but I'm not a native speaker of Japanese. But if I have some kind of experience in Japanese, and if I'm specialized in the field, then I can be a linguist. Someone from China can be a linguist of Arabic language. Now, are you linguists of Arabic? No, you're just native speakers. We are just native speakers of Arabic, but we're not linguists. Only the people who have experience about the language, who know how to describe the language, who know what things to observe, what things to collect, what kind of experiments to do, and what kind of conclusions they should generalize, can be linguists. The linguist is a consumer, not a producer of the language, which means that the linguist describes the language as it is. A language doesn't teach people how to speak a language. Linguistics doesn't teach people how to speak a language. That's why we resembled the linguist to a musicologist. The musicologist is not the person who plays the piano, but he is the person who points out the theme, who writes the notes, the harmony, and the variations of the concerto. But the person who plays the piece is the pianist. So we have a musicologist and a pianist. The musicologist corresponds with the linguist, and the pianist with the native speaker. Sometimes the musicologist, the pianist can also be a musicologist. The one who plays the piano is also able to write the music, to write the notes and the harmony, and to manage the themes and the timing, the pauses and everything. It's possible. Chomsky is a native speaker of English and a linguist too, because he studied linguistics. He is specialized in linguistics. بس فلان الفلاني شخص من أي دولة من العالم هو دارس مختص بعلم اللغة، ولكن هو ما يحكي اللغة بطريقة مثل النيتيف سبيكرز. شيء طبيعي يعني. تلقاه هو مصري ويقول this driver drives his car very fast، يحكي بهاي الطريقة. But he is specialized in linguistics. Is he a native speaker of English? No, he is not a native speaker of English. He is a native speaker of Egyptian Arabic. But he knows how to speak, and he knows everything about language. He has a very good experience in the field. Okay, that was the first part of chapter 1. اكو احد عنده سؤال هسه بخصوص هذا اللي شرحناه اول جزء من chapter 1؟
لا أستاذ واضح.
لا أستاذ واضح.
واضح أستاذ؟
واضح أستاذ.
اوكي نشغل الجزء الثاني. Okay. Here, the main point is to talk about the differences between linguistics and traditional grammar. We have three main differences between linguistics and traditional grammar. First, linguistics is descriptive, not prescriptive. Linguistics is descriptive, not prescriptive. يعني من أسئلة كان why is linguistics descriptive, not prescriptive؟ صح، أنت جوابك صحيح من تقول لي linguistics is interested in what is said, not what they thought ought to be said. يعني اشرح لي شنو تقصد بها؟ أنت شو هسوي؟ اللي ما يعرف يجاوب شنو يسوي؟ يسوي they describe language in all its aspects, but do not prescribe rules of correctness. Linguistics takes a descriptive approach to language. It tries to explain things ويقرأ 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 للأخير. طيب شنو معناها من أسألكم؟ البعض ما يعرف شنو معنى هذا الكلام. من أقول أنا linguistics is descriptive not prescriptive. خلينا نجي على كلمة prescriptive. هو منو اللي يسوي prescription؟ منو اللي يكتب وصفة؟ The doctor. When you go to see a doctor, the doctor writes a prescription for you. He prescribes some kind of medicine. The doctor tells you what to do and what not to do. Linguistics doesn't teach you what to say and what not to say. So it's not prescriptive. ما تعلمك شنو تحكي وشنو ما تحكي. أنت تحكي أصلا. And linguistics takes your speech and analyzes it as it is and as a natural phenomenon. ما تقول لك هاي خطأ هاي صح احكي كذا لا تحكي كذا. No, you already speak, and linguistics is that descriptive science or field which takes language as it is and describes all of its aspects. It describes the phonetics, the phonology, the morphology, the syntax, the semantics, the pragmatics, the vocabulary, the grammar, the pronunciation of language as it is. That's why it's descriptive, not prescriptive, because it doesn't teach you rules of correctness, doesn't prescribe rules of correctness. It just describes what is naturally or normally said in everyday life. But traditional grammar was prescriptive because traditional grammar was interested in how to teach people how to speak correctly, to provide rules of correctness. And that's the main difference between linguistics and traditional grammar. Another difference between linguistics and traditional grammar is what? Is that traditional grammar is mainly concerned with the written form of the language. النحو التقليدي القديم كان مهتم فقط بالكتابة، الشكل المكتوب للغة. But linguistics is interested in speaking and in writing, in the spoken form and the writing form. But the primary concern of linguistics is the spoken form. So linguistics is first and most importantly interested with the spoken form, and then comes the written form. So the written form in linguistics comes in the second place. In the first place, linguistics is more concerned with the spoken form of the language. And that's the second difference between linguistics and traditional grammar. Number 3 أنا من أطلب الاختلافات بين اللينغويستكس والتراديشنال جرامر. أحد الطلاب ما أعرف عندكم بالصباح أو بالمساء ما أتذكر منه. شنو الاختلافات؟ طالب أو طالبة قال linguistics is descriptive not prescriptive. طيب شنو بعد الاختلاف الثاني؟ أريد هذا، أريد number 2. This is number 2. Linguistics is interested in speaking not in writing. الاختلاف الثاني شنو؟ Linguists are interested in what is said, not what they think ought to be said. هذا صار الاختلاف الثاني, which is wrong. That's the same point. يعني شنو الاختلاف الثالث؟ الاختلاف الثالث, they describe language in all its aspects, but do not prescribe rules of correctness. No, that's the same. All of this is the same. It's just one point, which is linguistics is descriptive, not prescriptive. Everything else, it just explains this sentence. That's the second difference. شوفوا هذه مع رقم 2. هو هذا اختلاف ثاني. Linguistics is more interested with the spoken form of the language, and then the written form. The spoken first, then the written. The third difference is what? That traditional grammar in their work, they depend on Latin to describe the languages or to generalize standards from Latin. They believe that Latin is... نعم.
بس عيد النقطة هذه، صوتي يقطع وما سمعت الديفرنس. بس عيدها بلا زحمة.
هسه بس خليني أعيد هاي النقطة الثالثة. The third point is that linguistics is based on Latin, which means that traditional grammar is based on Latin. Linguistics is not based on Latin. Linguistics doesn't need Latin to describe all languages of the world. Linguistics doesn't need to generalize the standards of Latin to all languages of the world. Latin is not the mother of languages. Like, you cannot take every rule of Latin and you apply this rule to all languages of the world. Or you take the characteristics of the Latin language and you say that these are the same characteristics can also be employed and applied to all other languages of the world, just like what traditional grammarians were doing. And that's the third difference. So back to the first difference. Linguistics is descriptive, not prescriptive, which means that linguistics describes language as it is, describes what is naturally said, not what you should say. It doesn't prescribe rules of correctness. Linguistics doesn't teach you what to say or how to say it. It only describes what you say. It just takes what you said and takes what I said and takes what someone else said and then describes that speech. Describes the phonetics, the phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, pragmatics, everything. The second difference is that linguistics is more interested with the spoken form of the language more than the written form. Linguistics is also interested with the written form of language, but it's more interested with the spoken form of the language. But traditional grammar is interested more with the written form of language. And linguistics doesn't need Latin to describe all languages of the world, unlike, of course, traditional grammar, which needs Latin to work on other languages. دقيقة. Okay, نكمل. Linguistics has many components. It has phonetics, which is the scientific study of speech sounds, how we make the sounds, how we produce them. It's also interested in phonology, which is the study of the functions of sounds and sound systems of language, studying the phonological aspects of speech. Morphology, the study of the structure of words and morphemes. Syntax, the study of grammar and the structure of sentences. Semantics is the study of meaning, the literal meaning. Pragmatics is the study of the contextual meaning, the intended meaning, the implied meaning, المعنى المتضمن الضمني. And we have different branches of linguistics, like sociolinguistics, which studies the relationship between language and society, psycholinguistics, language and mind, applied linguistics, etc. See, that's the scope of linguistics. We have phonetics first, and then we have phonology, morphology and syntax here, بس نعمل لكن morphology خلينا ضمن syntax, semantics, and then pragmatics. So we start with sounds, and then words and sentences, and then sentences have meaning, and then there is another type of meaning, which is the contextual meaning or the intended meaning. And this diagram shows the scope of linguistics. And the last circle has what are consists of all branches of linguistics, all interdisciplinary fields, all fields of linguistics, all fields that linguistics interferes with other sciences. Phonetics is important because it studies the sounds. Phonology is also studies the sound. Morphology and syntax study words and sentences. Semantics, study of meaning. Pragmatics is the study of the implied meaning or the contextual meaning. Language here is resembled to a game of chess, according to the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure, if you remember, because linguists are interested in the various moves the chessmen make, and also how they are aligned. They are not interested in the physical substance of these chess pieces, whether they are made of wood or ivory or chocolate or paper or brass or glass or anything. What kind of material they are made of is not important as the moves that these chess pieces or chess men make and how they are aligned in horizontal and vertical relationship to each other. The rook, the knight, the bishop, and their relationship with the pawns, and then the king, the queen, and so on. Language has also items, and these items are related to each other, just like the relationship between the chessmen. And that these items of language, it doesn't matter what kind of morphemes they are made of. What really matters is their function and their form in the sentence. We have different branches of linguistics. Psycholinguistics is the study of language and mind. Sociolinguistics is the study of language and society. Applied linguistics is the application of linguistics to language teaching. Computational linguistics is the use of computers to stimulate language and its workings. When I work on some kind of a linguistic project, but using my computer, like I have a program, an application, or a database that analyzes some kind of material that I have collected from somewhere. Stylistics, the study of language and literature. When you apply linguistic theory on literary work. Anthropological linguistics is the study of cross-cultural settings, differences between languages according to their culture and, anthropological background and people speaking that language. Finally, we have philosophical linguistics, which studies the link between language and logic, or language and philosophy. That's it. That's all about chapter 1. من عنده سؤال؟
عندي سؤال.
العفو أستاذ، تقدر تعيد الثالث بين linguistic و traditional grammar؟ لأن ما لحقته.
الاختلاف الثالث؟
إيه أستاذ.
Okay. Traditional grammar or traditional grammarians, they think that if they want to work on all languages of the world, they should depend on Latin. They take Latin as a framework, as a foundation to start working on all other languages. Linguists, they disagree with traditional grammarians. They said, okay, if I want to describe Arabic or English, I don't need to know anything about Latin. I can just describe the language as it is. I don't need to take the features or the characteristics of Latin and then generalize these features to all other languages. That's the difference. يعني النحويين القدماء يعتقدون انه ياخذون خصائص اللغه اللاتينيه ويعمموها على كل لغات العالم، واذا يريد يشتغل على اي لغه بالعالم يبدي شغله من اللاتن، اوكي، ويشوف شنو يعمم خصائصها على البقيه. اما اللينغويست يقول لا، انا ما احتاج اللاتينيه حتى اصف اللغه العربيه او الانجليزيه او الاسبانيه او الى اخره. نعم تفضل.
بالنسبه
من
لي
عنده سؤال؟
عفوا دكتور، بالنسبه لي ما difference between the linguistic and the grammar. انت هسه تقول استاذ 3، احنا عادي نختار 2 اي 2، يعني ماكو mind difference. the two mind difference. استاذ انت هيك سالنا سؤال the two mind difference.
شو وقت سألت انا هالسؤال؟
مو هيك استاذ باليوم عفوا، لو شنو هذا اللي نزلت الرابط
بالاسايمنت؟
اي استاذ.
انا شنو كان سؤالي؟ ما ذكر والله الاسايمنت، ذكرني به.
استاذ انا هم نسيته والله، بس اذكرك ان the two mind difference. مو انا استغربت يعني شبه 3، فما عرفنا شنو المايند ديفرنس. انه 3 يعني اختار اي 2.
مين
اي مين يس سير.
لحظة هسه راح فتحت الاختبار هسه، هذا آخر شيء، مو الاختبار، الأسايمنت التمرين، ولا أشوف شنو. The linguist is a فراغ not a producer. هذا linguistics is not okay. One of the main differences between linguistics and traditional grammar is that linguistics is interested more with the فراغ form than the فراغ form. كتبت واحد.
واحد استاذ. اي شكرا استاذ. ما تفتح عندي بعد، انا جاوبت ما لحقت بعد. بهيك حال استاذ واحد، لان 3 نختار اي وحده عادي.
شو انقطع الصوت؟ اكو يمكم صوت؟
ماكو
لا
صوت
ماكو،
ماكو.
مقطوع مقطوع.
سلام الأستاذ.
الأستاذ كتم الصوت.
إيه يمكن.
وصل اليمن.
فصل النت. يوسف تسمعني؟
اي استاذ سمعك.
السؤال هو كان one of the main differences between linguistics and traditional grammar. يعني أنا جاي أسأل عن one. I didn't say we have two differences, and I didn't say we have three, and I didn't say how many differences do we have between linguistics and traditional grammar. All I said is that one of the differences is فراغ وفراغ. فأنا كنت جاي أحكي عن اختلاف واحد فقط. يعني أنا ما قلت عندنا اختلاف، ولا قلت عندنا اختلافين، ولا
اي
قلت
لا
عندي
استاذ، ما فتح الرابط مره ثانيه بعد عندي، فما نسيت السؤال، فليش دخلت بي انا؟ مو شفت ثلاثه فما عرفت منو الرئيسي. يعني تريد واحد، اي واحد.
ايوه، مو اريد اي واحد، اريد اللي اقصده بالفراغ. انا هنا ما اريد اي واحد. اكو فراغ، اكو شيء، اكو واحد عندهن مقصود هنا أنا انت تحله، هو هذا.
اوكي، شكرا جزيلا.
هسه بس ابلش بالامتحان، بس بالبدايه بس خلي اخذ الحضور قبل لا نبلش بالامتحان. بس اسجل حضوركم. اكو
عفوا
واحد
أستاذ
هسه هنا
نسأل
الرابط موجود. هسه راح ادزه مره ثانيه.